our greeter, and we've already asked our guest speaker today, but is there anyone else anyone who may have any objection to us recording the meeting today? Hearing none, I see we are recording and ready to go, and this will be posted to YouTube after the fact. So I know we have a couple Rotarians who aren't able to be here today who've said they're looking forward to viewing that. So I will start the screen share here. Today is September 9th, 2020. Our guest speaker today is Ms. Casey Twomey. I'm not going to go through the whole firm, but she's here to discuss estate planning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Carbondale meeting today. Meeting has begun. Shane, thank you for being our greeter today. There we go. Mr. Gil Cronin, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gil. It's time for our moment of reflection. Flowers, could you please lead us in the moment of reflection?
Yes, having observed Labor Day this week, I thought a reflection around Labor Day would be appropriate. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence.
Thank you, Dr. Flowers. Now it's time for song time, and the Rotary song this week is Smile.
And the world smiles with you, sing a song. Don't be weary, just be cheery all day long.
Time for introduction of guests. Shane Hermits, would you please introduce our guest today?
Yes, good morning, everybody. The Rotary Club of Carbondale is always welcome to have guests. And first and foremost, thank you to Ms. Casey Twomey for being our guest today. A few other guests that we have with us, we have visiting Rotarian R. Beck. Say good morning, R.
Good morning, Or.
Doug Lenz with us today. Say good morning, Doug.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sandy Buys, for inviting me.
And I see Gail White has a visitor with us. Would you like to introduce your guest?
Sure. My guest is my wife, Linda.
Hello.
Welcome, Linda.
Hello, Linda. Hello. Welcome, Linda.
And I believe that's all of the guests for today. Thanks for attending.
Thank you all for joining us today. We're happy to have you all. It's time for some club announcements today. First announcement, don't forget to participate in the Doodle Poll. Doodle Poll is sent out by Shane. We also have the links here. I will post them shortly in the chat window. I'll post them by the end of the meeting in the chat window. You can always email Shane as well, and that way we will have all of our greeters and other responsibilities handled by different folks each week. So thank you to those who are volunteering today and those who continue to do so. Our 100 Little Things virtual update. 26 projects completed. Actually, I believe it's 27 now with Gil taking care of the apples this morning. Thank you all for the continued hard work that we're putting in. 27 projects completed already this year. We've only got 83 to go. And I know there's a number of them that are already in the works. So anybody have any other updates for the 100 Little Things projects? Did I miss anything?
Gayla Borgononi.
I completed my 100 rolls of toilet paper for the Jackson Perry County Child Advocacy Program. That's what they asked for, and most of you understand that's something that's sort of in short supply at times, so that's what we did.
28 projects done. Thank you. That's 2 knocked out this week. Great job, Rotarians.
I delivered apples this morning to the Warming Center and to the Good Samaritan House. The 100 apples project is completed.
Great job. Our active service projects, each week we are supplying lunch every Wednesday to the Carbondale Warming Center, and that's on behalf of all the members of our club who continue. Thank you to those of you who continue to pay the lunch fees, because those lunch fees that even though we're not eating lunch, we're feeding the clientele over at the Warming Center. Today's lunch: taco spaghetti casserole with pinto beans, southwestern salad, and Mexican garlic bread. A little Mexican Italian fusion today. Also, we're continuing the material support project with the Warming Center. Gail White's our champion there, and last week he brought up their needs of some different toiletries. So I've listed those here. I did get an email back from Carmelita this week. Those are the specific needs that they have right now. I'm also going to be delivering 10 totes to them with all the shelving and everything else they have. They're still in need of some containers to store those. So if you have empty totes at your house right now, I'm not saying we need to go out and buy a whole bunch. I don't know how many they need in total, but I asked if they needed them, if they would take them, and she said yes, of course. They're in the process of going through their clothing right now. They get a lot of clothing donations and things of that nature, so they do need some places to store those. Gail, do you have anything to add to the Warming Center materials project right now?
Yes, in addition to the things that you have listed there, Carmelita said they always have a standing need for frozen meals that they can reheat, drink mixes, general cleaning supplies, and the other things I think you already have listed there.
Gail, do the frozen meals have to be from the grocery store, or can there be something that's homemade and frozen?
I think it could be homemade and frozen.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, they have microwave ovens. At this point, they don't have a commercial kitchen set up. I think they're working towards that, but at this point, just something that can be warmed in a microwave, or thawed and warmed in a microwave.
Our foundation donation challenge is still ongoing, and at this point we've got matching donations to our club foundation, $100 each month. Thank you to everyone who's listed here. Brad is this month in September. I don't think we've missed a month so far. We've had that need to match that each month, all the way through Shane in May of 2021. If you'd like to add your name to the list beyond that, please let me know. Let Shane know, let Jim Grant know, and we'll make sure that we get you down on the list. We have one more club announcement before we move into district news. Ella Lacey, could you please share that announcement? You're muted, Ella.
Before I start on that one, let me just tell you, the masks are on their way. They should be arriving in Fort Pierce today. I didn't get confirmation that they're there yet, but they were mailed to get there today, and then we'll get word as to when they will go on to Pinyon. That was announcement one. Announcement two is on behalf of AAUW. Last night we had our opening meeting and President Mahoney was our keynote speaker, did a very good job. And I want you to know about our Community Service Award, where we recognized our own member, who is also a member of Rotary, Cindy Bies, for her outstanding service to the. And we also recognize someone else that we know very well, thinking of the Warming Center, Carmelita Cahill. We recognized her for her outstanding service as well. So thank you. When you see or meet either one of these people, please give them your congratulations. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Ella, and congratulations, Cindy, receiving a great award. You're probably a little lucky that our standard Sergeant at Arms isn't here today. He might fine you for that.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Ella. Yeah, I was thinking I'd probably owe a fine for that.
It's time for some district news. Our membership challenge. This is a district-wide challenge, District 6510. Recruiting new members. All the clubs in the district are part of this, and the club who gains the most new members between now and December 31st, the highest net membership gain gets $500. And Shane, do you want to touch on how you're adding to that a little bit?
Yep, we will give the one person in our club that brings the most a $100 prize. Plus, I will match that to the local foundation. Just so you know, we're falling behind. There are clubs that have added members already. There's one club that's already added 4 members as part of this challenge. So we've got some work to do, but we still got plenty of time to do it.
Our innovative clubs concept. Shane, could you please touch on this as well?
Sure. If you can see the screen, we've got a few of the clubs that have been brought up. The Mississippi River Cause Club has a meeting today at 2 o'clock online. We are launching discussions for the Provisional Club for the SIU alumni in October. The SIU Veterans Club information is starting to come together, and we'll have more information of that in coming weeks. Sustainable agriculture is a topic that Innovative Club thought that local farmers could wrap their mind around, and maybe Rotary could help them. Another concept is renewable energy. Could we create a club with a focus for renewable energy, with the focus on the environment coming into focus in the next year? And then also the district is looking at a overall passport club, where you could just kind of travel from club to club and participate in service projects and in meetings and not really belong to any traditional club. So these concepts are still in the works.
And we could add disaster, because we've got, our district's got the disaster response.
Good point. Yep, disaster recovery, disaster response is another one of those. So I'll add that to the list. Thank you, Laura.
Another potential new club launch is happening in Murfreesboro. The first informational meeting is tomorrow at 5 p.m. So if you have some folks that live in Murfreesboro, I know that I've invited a handful of folks to come to this meeting, but there's looking at launching a provisional club in Murfreesboro. That's been in the works, so I want to thank Shane and a few others that have been involved in that. Do you have anything you want to add to that one, Shane, or is that rest on its own right now with the Facebook launch?
Yeah, but what we're looking for is the meeting to be full of people that are not part of Rotary. If you can invite them, that would be great, because the one thing we don't need is 10 Rotarians in the meeting with one non-Rotarian. So we need non-Rotarians to come and learn about what Rotary is about. And we need to stoke their passion, and perhaps it'll turn into a club out of the Murfreesboro area. And they can decide whether that club's traditional. They can decide whether it's going to be innovative. that group can decide how they want that club to be, but we need a bulk of that meeting to be non-Rotarians if possible.
Okay, some Rotary International news to share today. Africa is certified polio-free. I'm going to continue to emphasize that because we still have Afghanistan and Pakistan to go. As we've continued to work hard over the years, I know Ella Lacey's been a big champion for this and has been on some different projects for it. Continue to check out the polio eradication updates online, and as I said, Africa is certified polio free, but as we continue, that doesn't mean the work is done. It means that we've reached that milestone. So please continue making your contributions to that polio fund, and hopefully in the next couple of years we can eradicate polio completely. Now it's time for some of your good news. Who's got some good news to share?
Well, I don't know if this is good news, but I thought it was kind of fun news. The movie Sister Kenny with Rosalind Russell was broadcast on Turner Classic Movies this past week. And I was watching it, and in the introduction, they mentioned Rosalind Russell actually did know Sister Kenny. She met her when Ms. Russell was volunteering at a pediatric children's hospital someplace in Los Angeles, I believe. So I just thought that was kind of a fun little tidbit of information about that film. And Ms. Russell was the mover and shaker behind getting it made, and she did not care if the movie ever made money because she thought the story of Sister Kenny and polio was just so important for people to hear.
Thank you, Christine. I did go through and mute a couple people. We had some feedback coming through, so if you're all ready to speak, feel free to unmute yourself. I did get a raised hand from Mr. Beck. So, Or, what is your good news today?
Well, yesterday the disaster response team had the joy of passing out locally a bunch of PPE in both Jackson and Williamson County, but the disaster team got $25,000 grant from RI, and we're passing out PPE to all 28 counties across Southern Illinois. So yesterday, it got passed out in our county.
Thank you, Or. That's fantastic news. $25,000 is a lot of money that we got there. So I'm sure that helps out a lot of organizations that need it. We've got a happy birthday announcement for Faith Miller's mother, celebrating her 83rd birthday tomorrow.
So, Rick, I got a couple things. First, whoever's keeping track of the blood drive and the donations, I was able to give blood at the end of August on my 56-day cycle. So I did give blood then. And since COVID has started, I've only got to see my children, my oldest son, 2 times, and I got to see him over the weekend. He works in St. Louis in a hospital, as does his wife. And his wife actually works in a COVID unit and has been an RN nurse for 6 months now. And neither one of them have contracted COVID, and we actually got to see him over the weekend. And so that was good news for me.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else with some good news to share today? I'll go while you all think about it. My family and I were able to go hiking this weekend out at Little Grand Canyon. It was a beautiful hike on a beautiful Sunday. It was very packed, so it was great to see so many people out and about and enjoying the fresh air and the beauty that we have here in Southern Illinois, all while social distancing, and most of the folks that were on that trail had masks on, which was also great. So even though we were spaced out pretty well, and at least then when we passed, people were still being safe. So it was great to get out and enjoy some sunshine and enjoy the beautiful weather.
Yeah, Keep Carbondale Beautiful, and I've been on the board for a few years, is having a motorcycle rally. They're calling it Dash for Trash this weekend. People are going to come on their motorcycles, and they're going to get assigned places to go out and pick up trash. And it's a fundraiser for Keep Carbondale Beautiful. This COVID has been rough on the organization, and this is kind of an extra fundraiser for us. And there'll be a lot of items have been donated, especially by cycle shops, and there'll be drawings for that and a get together at PK's afterwards. So it's kind of a interesting thing that we're doing this weekend. And we've been making some masks, and we're going to be selling those as well. So that's what's keeping me busy this week.
All right. I hear a little bit of silence, so we'll keep moving on through the agenda. Thank you all for your good news. It's always wonderful to hear. Sergeant at Arms, Gail White, our online Sergeant at Arms, the floor is yours.
Well, Jerry, I want to see what kind of motorcycle you're going to be riding at that event. So if you can send out a notice to all of us, we'd like to get some pictures to post on our website.
I'll show you what mask I'll be wearing when I'm selling the raffle tickets. And that's as far as my motorcycle experience goes.
Good job. Well, I made note of all the good news contributions that everyone has shared about their activities this past week. And then if you recall, 2 weeks ago, I issued a grace period for anyone who has not filled out their census after Carl Flowers reminded us that we were approaching the deadline. So is there anyone who'd like to raise your hand that you haven't filled out your census form? And I don't see any hands going up, so I'm assuming that means 100% of everybody on the call today has filled out their census. What do you think, Carl? Shall we let everybody off the hook?
Absolutely, yes.
All right.
They deserve it this week.
All right. That's all from me.
Thank you, Gail. Now it's time for our guest speaker, Ms. Casey Twomey of Barrett, Twomey, Broome, Hughes, and Hoke. Having it all listed in front of me, I can read it. So at this point, I will stop sharing my screen, and we will allow you to do so.
All right.
Maybe. Shane, I'm only a co-host. It's not allowing me to give her that capability here.
There we go. I'm going to put my email address on here too, just in case there's something that you think of afterwards that you'd like to share with me or ask me, maybe that you don't feel comfortable sharing with the group too. So that's on there. All right, and I apologize if we have any background noise. We're right on 13, so it can get a little loud sometimes. So if there's anything that you miss, just make a note and let me know at the end, and we'll save plenty of time for questions and answers and whatnot. But thank you for allowing me to be here this afternoon. Really excited to talk about estate planning. We do these lectures a few times a year, and that has been dramatically decreased with not being able to do large gatherings with people. So this is our first attempt to do this online. So we're paving the way. But my name is Casey Twomey, and I'm an associate attorney at Barrett, Twomey, Broom, Hughes, and Hope here in Carbondale. I've been an attorney for about 6 years now, just coming up on my 6th year, and one of my primary practices is estate planning. So today we're going to just scratch the surface. Estate planning is a huge area of law that is so specific to each person's unique set of circumstances. So along those ideas, this presentation is intended to just be a broad overview of estate planning. It's not specific to anyone's unique circumstances. So again, we're going to talk about the very basic documents that we normally prepare to kind of give you an idea of what's out there. So when we talk about needing an estate plan, or we talk about an estate plan in general, people say, well, what is that? Or a lot of times I have clients come in and they'll say, well, I don't have an estate. I don't have a lot. You know, I've just got my car and I've got my house, and it's in joint, you know, they're in joint tenancy with my spouse, and we've got a checking account. You know, I don't have a lot. Well, that's all fine and dandy. But an estate plan doesn't just provide for large estates. It is a plan for your life. And that includes how you're going to accumulate property. Then once you've accumulated it, how you're going to manage that property during your lifetime, and ultimately plan for future contingencies, including the management and distribution after you pass away. So when we talk about what is an estate, that includes literally everything that you own. So when you think about an estate, think about your personal property. What kind of furniture, household furnishings, clothing, automobiles, that kind of stuff. Also include your financial assets. So your checking account, your savings account, your investments, any IRAs you may have, pensions, and real estate. That can include a residence, so a marital home. It can include business property. It can include family property. And sometimes people even forget about their out-of-state property. And whenever we want to talk about what kind of estate plan is going to be best for you, these are all of the different types of assets that we're going to be looking at and evaluating how those assets are held, where they're at, beneficiaries, all those kinds of things to determine what the best estate plan for you would be. So the first document we're going to talk about is a will. And this is your very basic document to quite complex document. Wills are not just a one-size-fits-all type document, but ultimately it is a document that's prepared to carry out your estate plan. It is executed during your life and directs the distribution of property after a person's death. A little vocab lesson is a will. The person who makes a will is called a testator. As a general matter, wills are revocable, so they can be changed. They are private, so they are not actually distributed or filed at the courthouse until after someone passes away. So you have no obligation to share that document during your lifetime unless you would choose that you would want to do that. They are amendable. We call that by a codicil. So that is a kind of a short form that we use in order to amend wills. Sometimes people elect to just do new wills as they may change their minds, but they are amendable. They can be changed. That's one reason why a lot of times people will want to keep them private, just because, you know, circumstances can change, family circumstances can change. So keeping those private is sometimes a good characteristic.
Excuse me, Ms. Twomey?
Yeah.
Would you please change your slideshow view? We see the next slide, it's smaller on there, and it makes the whole presentation pretty small on our screens right now.
Oh, okay. Let's see here. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. See, this is my first time doing it, so I'm on a learning curve. But wills are also effective only at death. So again, that's another reason why we keep them private, because they're not effective until someone actually passes away. Some formalities of wills, they are in writing. So the recording, the Hollywood movie of the grandfather sitting in the library, videotaping his last will and testament is really not a thing, not in Illinois at least. So wills have to be in writing. They have to be signed. They have to be witnessed. So a lot of times people will ask, well, what if I have a handwritten will? And what if I write it out myself? That's perfectly fine. They just have to be properly witnessed. And Illinois requires 2 witnesses. We do 3 witnesses just in case we couldn't find someone. They're also not required to be notarized. So a lot of times people think that they have to have a notary, but that's not required. Now, if you were to move to a different state or a different country and you have changes that you would want to make to your will, you'd want to double check what the formalities of execution are in that state. They do vary from state to state. So you would want to make sure if you're making a change that that change would be done properly so it can best carry out your wishes. So why do we do wills? Implement a planned disposition of your assets. So to make sure that things are the way that you would want them to be. Also waives a surety bond for an executor. That's kind of like an insurance policy for an executor or an administrator whenever they're appointed by the court to carry out your wishes. It prevents them from having to go and actually get that insurance policy that they're going to carry out their duties as executor for the estate. It also allows an executor to act independently of the court, so the court doesn't have to constantly monitor every single thing that they're doing. A lot of normal routine things can be done without constant court approval. It also allows a nomination for a guardian of minor children. So whenever we were first hopping on, I was sharing that a lot of times people think that estate planning is only if you are at or past retirement age. And that is a common misconception. I even have people who, are my age that come in or friends of mine that come in and say, well, I don't need a will. I don't need any of that. Well, you have minor children. Have you talked about who is going to take care of your kids if something were to happen to you and your spouse? And the common reaction is, whoa, that I never really thought about that. So wills do a lot more than just provide for a disposition for someone at or past retirement age. It also gives you the opportunity to nominate an executor. So you get to choose who's going to ultimately carry out your wishes, and also name people in the event that person would be unable to do that. It's also a way to set up what we call a testamentary trust. So that is a trust that goes inside of a will. That is also given effect whenever someone passes away and their will is admitted to probate. So a lot of times we will use this when we do have the scenario of a couple that has small children, not necessarily at a point in their life that they want to set up a trust, but we need it as a just in case something were to happen to them, so that someone could step in and financially take care of their children. So I've mentioned trusts. Trusts are another very common document that's prepared. It's usually prepared in conjunction with a will, but it is a method of holding title to an asset. So I describe it as a box, and your trust is your box that sets up rules and guidelines for how things are going to go in the box, and then ultimately how they're going to come out of the box. The settlor is the person who establishes the trust. The trustee is the person who ultimately manages the trust. A lot of times that's the person who is the settlor, so it's the person who actually sets up the trust. Requires a beneficiary, so whoever is going to inherit after you pass away, or you during your lifetime. And then it also gives you an opportunity to name successor beneficiaries if something were to happen to the first people that you named. Now, transitioning to documents that take place during your lifetime. So wills and trusts are generally documents that come into effect after you pass away. When we look at also documents that you need during your lifetime, this would be in the event that you are still alive, but you're unable to take care of your affairs or make decisions for yourself. So we have the first document is a power of attorney for healthcare. And that is a written document that you can legally designate someone to act on your behalf to make healthcare decisions. As a general matter, these documents or this document becomes effective whenever you're unable to make decisions for yourself. This document also gives you an opportunity to express your feelings regarding life-sustaining treatment and organ donation. You can also limit the power of attorney. So as the principal, you get to gauge how much power you want to give to the person you're designating. These are some of the choices regarding life-sustaining treatment that ordinarily we go into a little bit when we have a little bit more time, but I do want to talk about the property power of attorney. So I'm going to skip on to that. So that is the document that gives someone, your agent, the ability to make financial decisions for you in the event you're unable to. So that would include paying your bills, transferring your real estate, managing any kind of investments that you would have. Really any type of, I describe business activity that you would have, your agent would be able to take care of that for you. So this is also a document that you can appoint not only an agent, but also successor agents. So in the event you need backups. And these documents are incredibly important for anyone over the age of 18, especially because as a normal rule of thumb, these documents prevent us from having to seek guardianship if something were to happen to you that you were not able to take over your own affairs or manage your own affairs anymore. So these documents are incredibly important. So as a conclusion, when you think about estate planning, think about it in 4 basic steps. So prepare. You're thinking about wanting to do your estate plan. Make a list. Sit down and think about what type of assets do you have, a rough value, where are they located, and how do you have them titled? Are they in joint tenancy? Are they in your name alone? Do they have beneficiary designations? Then once you've made that list, allocate. So think about, okay, I have this asset. Who do I want it to go to? What do I want done with it? Then execute. Some people execute documents themselves, and then some people decide, I'm going to call up an attorney and let's talk about, okay, here's the list I've made. Here's what I want to do with it. Now, what kind of documents do I need to execute in order to carry out this plan? And review. So a lot of times people will think that after you've signed your documents, throw them in a drawer, never worry about it again. And that is true to an extent, but I ordinarily send letters to clients requesting that they look at their documents about every 5 years or so, just to make sure everything's kept fresh. So that's all I have for my PowerPoint presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Casey, Christine McGuire here. What happens if you pass away without a will or an estate plan?
So we call that intestate succession, and there is a statute that says who is going to inherit if you do not provide for an estate plan. So ordinarily, a common misconception is that your spouse would inherit everything if you have children, and that's not the case. It is actually half to your spouse and half to your kids. So that is usually quite a surprise to people. So to answer your question, there is a statute that will determine who inherits, but a lot of times that statute isn't exactly who you would want to inherit, which is why it's important to do these documents.
And a follow-on to that is, what if you want to make charitable contributions through your will?
Absolutely. And we have a lot of clients and a lot of people who do that. You can do that through a will, you can do it through a trust. Just depends on the circumstances of what you have, if a will or a trust would be better advisable. But that is absolutely something that people do quite a bit.
This is Rick Morse here. One of the things that I've often considered, and my wife and I have talked at this point about what do we do, with a will? How do we go about this? We have investments through retirement funds. We have life insurance policies, things of that nature. How does all of that end up flowing into a will?
So some things we would call probate assets, and some things are non-probate assets. So your will governs your probate assets. Those include assets that are in your name alone. Things like life insurance typically are payable to named beneficiaries. Beneficiary designations are a contract between the company and the beneficiary. So that is payable directly to the beneficiary and does not go through the estate. So whenever you're thinking about what documents to set up, it's very important to think about all of your assets, and thinking about your life insurance and your investments and things that are beyond just your house and your checking account. Because it is important to go through and check those boxes and see exactly what you have and how it is structured to determine what the best estate plan would be.
Well, I'll ask another question because I don't hear any answers right now. I have family members who have passed away young, so it's thought processes we've had, and I've also gone through a couple grandparents in that process. What is the benefit of setting things up in a trust versus just having a basic will?
This is Jerry here. With you had mentioned.
Oh, sorry, I think I cut out just a little bit there.
Jerry, do you want to go ahead and ask your question again?
Yes, you had mentioned that the state says that it's 50-50 with the spouse. If documents are set up, let's say with beneficiaries, does that 50-50 apply if you have a will and beneficiaries lined out specifically?
Having a will and beneficiaries lined out, that statute would not be applicable. So your succession would go based on how you have your beneficiaries designated in your will, and also beneficiary designations on either your accounts or policies.
Okay, thank you.
And Rick, I think your question was the benefits of a trust versus a will, maybe some of the things that you would weigh when you're deciding what to do.
Yes.
And ordinarily, when we look at doing a trust, we look at, are you at or past retirement age? What are your beneficiary situations? Are we dealing with minor children? Are we dealing with a special needs beneficiary? What are the needs of your beneficiaries going to be? Do you have any out-of-state real estate? And then also the ease of administration. So with trusts, ordinarily probate, so the formal court process to administer someone's estate is not required. I call it kind of pre-probating because the steps to set up a trust are a lot like actually going in and probating the will, only you're doing it during your lifetime. So those are the typical things that we look at. Really, it depends on what the client's goals are.
Casey, do you have any suggestions regarding how real estate properties should be titled in order to make the process of transfer easier?
There are different options. So one option is by letting it pass through a will or a trust. Another option is by putting property in joint tenancy. There's also an option for tenancy by the entirety, which is for the marital home only between spouses, but it protects the home from creditors of one spouse. We use that a lot whenever we have clients that one spouse is in what we would call a risky business. So doctors, lawyers, typically those types of professions that have the risk of malpractice. Another option, which is relatively new to Illinois, are called transfer on death instruments that we just recently started doing within the past couple years. And that is kind of like putting a beneficiary designation on a piece of real estate. And that allows it to also pass outside of probate. So it's kind of a nifty little tool that we've been able to use to protect assets from creditors at death, and also just for ease of administration after someone passes away.
Casey, Ella Lacey.
Hi.
And hi. This is not a critical question. It's about the past, but among friends, I guess I can mention that when I had minor children, the only time I would think of a will was when I was on my way to the airport, often with my husband driving and the children at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I would grab some note paper and designate to whom my children should go if my husband and I both, came to our end on this flight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he would co-sign mine and I would co-sign, I'd write one for him and I'd co-sign it. Now, was that any value at all? Would that have been of any value?
So in Illinois, wills have to be witnessed by two disinterested witnesses. So
right.
That has to be people who are not named as beneficiaries in your will. So that ordinarily we have our staff provide the witnessing for clients and whatnot, just to make sure that we're good on all of that. But
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's say last call for questions. Anyone else have a question for Casey this afternoon? Seeing none, I'll say thank you, Ms. Twomey, for giving us this presentation today and answering some questions. I know that I learned a good amount here, and I've got a nice yellow legal pad full of notes that I'm going to take home and talk to my wife about. It's greatly appreciated that you joined us today and did this presentation. So.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you have any follow-up questions and didn't catch my email at the very beginning, Shane has my email, and I believe Rick and I exchanged some emails, so he should have that too. So happy to answer any questions I'm able to.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, what's happening next week? Next week we have Mary Jo Nobilski to discuss Polio Plus. The 23rd, our very own Brad Austin will be in to discuss electric vehicles. On the 30th of September, Dorsey Prosser discussing early and mail-in voting and a proposed amendment to the Illinois Constitution. And October 7th, we have SIU Chancellor Austin Lane joining us. So thank you to Linda Flowers and the programming committee for setting us up for the next month. Now it's time for the four-way test. Brooke Guthman, would you please join us or lead us in the four-way test?
The four-way test of what we think, say, or do. First, Is it true?
Is it the truth?
True. Is it fair to all concerned? Third,
Will it
Will
build
build goodwill and better friendships.
will it be
Beneficial to
all concerned?
All concerned.
Thank you, Carbondale Noon Rotary, for joining us this week, and we will see you all next week. As always, you can check out our website, Facebook, Instagram, and check us out on YouTube at Rotary Club or Carbondale Rotary, where all of our weekly meetings are posted. Meeting is adjourned.